Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today's story is one you will not want to miss. It's a tale about arrogance, prejudice, and the shocking moment when true power is finally revealed. Imagine this. A man walks into a luxurious five-star hotel. He's dressed simply, nothing flashy, nothing that screams wealth or influence, just a quiet, unassuming presence. But little does anyone know, this man is about to change everything. It was a rainy afternoon when Ibrahim Traoré stepped into the grand lobby of the most prestigious hotel in the city. The marble floors glistened under the golden lights, and the air smelled of expensive perfume and polished wood. Guests in designer suits and evening gowns sipped champagne, while a soft melody played from the grand piano in the corner. It was a place reserved for the elite, or so they believed. Ibrahim walked in calmly, his hands in his pockets, his expression neutral. He wasn't there to show off or to draw attention. To the casual observer, he looked like an ordinary man, maybe even someone who didn't belong. And that was exactly what caught the eye of the hotel's head of security. From across the lobby, a tall, broad-shouldered guard narrowed his eyes and muttered under his breath, "Who let this guy in?" he sneered to a colleague. Within seconds, he marched toward Ibrahim, blocking his path with a cold, dismissive glare. "Excuse me, sir," the guard said, his voice sharp and loud enough for others to hear. "This hotel is private property. Only guests are allowed here. Are you lost?" His tone dripped with condescension, and a few guests turned to watch, their curiosity piqued. Ibrahim remained calm. "I'm here to meet someone," he replied politely. The guard chuckled, shaking his head. "Meet someone? Here? I don't think so. People like you don't just walk into places like this. Why don't you try the hotel down the street? It's more your level." A murmur rippled through the crowd as a couple of guests smirked. One woman whispered to her companion, "Oh, he must be some kind of worker. Look at those clothes." Despite the humiliating remarks, Ibrahim's face didn't change. He stood tall, his posture dignified, his voice steady. "I assure you," he said softly, "I'm exactly where I need to be." But the guard wasn't finished. He crossed his arms and took a step closer, towering over Ibrahim. "Listen," he growled. "I don't know how you got past the front desk, but you need to leave. Now, before I make you leave." The tension in the room was palpable. Guests leaned in, eager to witness the spectacle. The pianist's hands froze on the keys, the soft music dying mid-note. Even the receptionist, who had been busy checking in a family, stopped and stared. Ibrahim slowly exhaled. He could feel every eye in the room on him, judging him, dismissing him. But he didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he gave the guard a small, almost imperceptible nod and turned to leave. As he walked out under the heavy stares of the crowd, whispers followed him like a trail of smoke. Some were mocking, others pitying, but all carried the same judgment. He doesn't belong here. What no one knew was that Ibrahim Traoré was no ordinary man. He wasn't just some random visitor wandering into a fancy hotel. He was the commander of a highly specialized military force, a leader with immense influence and authority. And this hotel, with all its glamour and arrogance, was about to witness a reckoning it would never forget. Outside, the rain fell harder, soaking Ibrahim's simple jacket as he disappeared into the storm. Back inside, the guard strutted back to his post, puffing out his chest with pride, completely unaware that his moment of triumph was only the calm before the storm. The scene was set, the players were in position, and soon everyone in that lobby would realize just how dangerous it is to underestimate a man like Ibrahim Traore. The following day, the luxurious hotel was buzzing with its usual crowd of wealthy guests and high-profile visitors. The same head of security stood proudly at his post, still boasting about how he had handled the man from the day before. To him, it was a victory, proof that he was protecting the hotel's reputation and exclusivity. But what he didn't know was that his arrogance had set the stage for a storm that was about to erupt. Inside the grand lobby, whispers about the incident spread like wildfire. Some guests laughed cruelly, retelling the story as if Ibrahim was nothing more than a beggar or an intruder. Others nodded approvingly, convinced that the guard had done the right thing. After all, this was a place for important people, and in their minds, Ibrahim was anything but important. Meanwhile, Ibrahim was miles away, seated in a quiet office, surrounded by his closest advisors. He didn't show anger, though his eyes burned with determination. He reviewed intelligence reports, signed confidential documents, and prepared for the evening ahead. His voice was calm, but firm as he gave orders, his demeanor commanding respect from everyone in the room. "This is not about revenge," Ibrahim said, his tone steady. "It's about dignity. It's about showing them that the world does not revolve around wealth and appearances. Tonight, they will learn a lesson they will never forget." Back at the hotel, the head of security strutted through the lobby, completely oblivious to what was coming. He spotted a group of VIP guests checking in and rushed over to assist them, showering them with politeness and charm. But whenever an ordinary-looking guest approached, his attitude turned cold and dismissive. It was a pattern everyone had noticed, but no one dared to confront. The receptionist, a young woman named Claire, had witnessed the incident with Ibrahim the previous day. She hadn't said a word, but guilt gnawed at her. As she handed room keys to another wealthy couple, she whispered to a colleague, "Do you think maybe we went too far yesterday? That man seemed so calm, so different." Her colleague shrugged. "Management only cares about appearances. As long as the VIPs are happy, nothing else matters." Evening fell, and the lobby shimmered under the glow of crystal chandeliers. Guests in designer attire gathered for a private gala hosted by the hotel. The atmosphere was one of luxury and exclusivity, exactly what the guard prided himself on maintaining. Suddenly, a rumble echoed outside. It started faint, like distant thunder, but quickly grew louder. The guests exchanged puzzled glances, and even the pianist paused mid-song. The guard frowned and moved toward the entrance, his instincts on edge. Through the glass doors, headlights pierced the night. One car, then two, then an entire convoy of sleek, black military vehicles rolled up to the hotel. Their engines roared as uniformed soldiers leapt out, their movements sharp and disciplined. Gasps erupted throughout the lobby. People backed away, clutching their jewelry and handbags, unsure of what was happening. The guard's chest tightened with fear, though he tried to keep his composure. The lead vehicle stopped directly in front of the hotel. A door opened slowly, deliberately, and out stepped Ibrahim Traore. Gone were the simple clothes from before. Now, he stood tall in a decorated military uniform, medals gleaming under the lights. His posture radiated authority, and his eyes scanned the crowd with calm precision. The lobby fell silent. Not a single breath, not a single whisper. Everyone stared, realization dawning on their faces. The man they had mocked and dismissed was no ordinary guest. He was a leader, powerful, respected, and commanding an elite force. The head of security stumbled backward, his face draining of color. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. The memory of his insults from the previous day echoed in his mind like a cruel joke. Ibrahim's soldiers fanned out, securing the area with silent efficiency. The atmosphere shifted from opulent luxury to tense anticipation. Guests clutched each other, unsure whether to flee or stay still. Ibrahim took a step forward, his boots clicking sharply against the marble floor. His voice, calm yet powerful, broke the silence. "This hotel," he said, his gaze sweeping the room, "claims to represent excellence and dignity. But yesterday, I was treated as if I were beneath you, as if my worth could be measured by my clothes or your assumptions." The crowd flinched. Some lowered their eyes in shame, while others stared wide-eyed at the man they had underestimated. "And tonight," Ibrahim continued, "you will understand just how dangerous it is to judge a man by appearances." Gasps rippled through the crowd as the truth sank in. The tension reached a boiling point. The guard trembled, realizing there was no escape from what was coming next. For a moment, the entire lobby seemed frozen in time. The glittering chandeliers above swayed slightly, their light casting fractured patterns across the marble floor. All eyes were locked on Ibrahim Traoré, the man they had mocked, the man they had turned away. And now, standing before them, he looked like a figure carved from stone, unshakable, undeniable. The head of security finally found his voice, though it came out as a weak stammer. "M- Mr. I mean, Commander, I..." His knees buckled, and he dropped to the floor, trembling. It was the ultimate reversal. The man who had once towered over Ibrahim, now groveling at his feet. Ibrahim's expression remained unreadable. He didn't shout, he didn't rage. Instead, his calmness was more terrifying than anger. With a single gesture, he signaled to his soldiers. Two of them stepped forward and flanked the guard, their presence alone enough to silence any further protest. "Yesterday," Ibrahim began, his voice steady and resonant, "you humiliated me before this entire room. You assumed I was less than you because of my appearance, because I didn't fit your narrow definition of worth." A ripple of shame moved through the crowd. Several guests lowered their heads, unable to meet his gaze. "I left quietly," Ibrahim continued, his tone sharpening like a blade. But that does not mean I was powerless. I came back today, not to seek revenge, but to teach you a lesson that must never be forgotten. The room was silent, save for the pounding hearts of everyone present. Claire, the receptionist, clutched the counter, tears welling in her eyes. She whispered under her breath, "Oh my God, he's the leader." Ibrahim's eyes scanned the room, lingering on each face. "Power," he said, pausing for effect, "does not always wear a crown or a tailored suit. Sometimes true power walks among you, silent and unseen. And when you choose to disrespect others based on nothing but arrogance, you risk losing everything." With those words, he turned to the guard, who was now kneeling, shaking uncontrollably. "You," Ibrahim said coldly, "you were entrusted with protecting this place. Instead, you became its greatest disgrace. Effective immediately, you are dismissed." The soldiers lifted the guard to his feet and escorted him out as gasps filled the air. Some guests clapped quietly, while others remained stunned, their faces pale with disbelief. Ibrahim then addressed the hotel management, who stood trembling near the reception desk. "This establishment will undergo a complete review," he declared. "Policies will change. No guest, no human being should ever be treated the way I was treated yesterday." The manager nodded furiously, promising reforms, his voice barely above a whisper. As Ibrahim prepared to leave, he glanced at Claire, the only employee who had shown even a flicker of remorse. He gave her a small nod, an acknowledgement of her silent struggle, before turning toward the massive glass doors. Outside, the convoy of military vehicles waited, engines rumbling. As Ibrahim stepped into the cool night air, a light drizzle began to fall, washing away the tension of the evening. Behind him, the guests erupted into chatter, their voices a mix of awe, shame, and fear. The final image burned into their minds: Ibrahim Traoré, the man they had dismissed as a nobody, walking away as a leader whose authority stretched far beyond their shallow world of luxury. That night, as the city lights flickered in the distance, a powerful lesson lingered in every heart. Never judge a person by their appearance. Respect is not earned by wealth or status alone, and arrogance will always meet its downfall. For in the end, true power lies not in what you see, but in what you fail to recognize until it's far too late.